Hello, welcome back to the Live Reality Game Podcast. And my name is Steven, and I'm back with our final scheduled Surviving Reelfoot Fowler's Point interview. And joining me today for this occasion is the fourth place finisher, the fallen angel this season, Megan. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you? I cannot believe I'm the last interview.
Well, it was not supposed to be this way, but I am excited for you to round up the season. I think you're gonna have I think you had such a unique position in the game because of all the players, you really got to play the middle of the season.
Yeah, after watching a million episodes of Survivor, I never really knew how people played the middle, and here I am, right in the middle of
Just
in Reelfoot. So
be on a tribe that's down the numbers in a very tribe focused season and pivot from there, right? Nothing to
that's
it.
right.
So I think before we can even talk about Reelfoot, we need to talk about your previous live rally game. Correct me if I'm wrong. Has your only past game been Survival Challenge?
Correct. Yeah, Survival Challenge was my first live reality game. And I wasn't even supposed to be on Survival Challenge, but that's a whole different story.
So you competed in Survival Challenge 2021, and Survival Challenge, um, I guess we can both attest to it, has brutal pre-merges, right? And so you end up going out right before the first swap in a crazy all-tribe tribal council where the intended target becomes immune through a twist. Coming out of Survival Challenge, how did you want to adapt when you before going into your next live reality game? Or I guess what was your takeaway from your Survival Challenge experience?
Yeah, obviously the crew and production Survival Challenge are amazing. I had a great experience there, but I did feel like I was not in control of my own game in Survival Challenge.
Mhm.
I had never played a live reality game before. It was immediately after COVID. So honestly, I wasn't even used to being around human beings. It was a one world scenario, very intense, very short form game. I felt like I really didn't want to be too aggressive, and I was very afraid of losing instead of trying to win. And there were a lot of situations where I felt like I was sort of floating through the game, and I didn't really take my own game into my own hands. And so one of the things that I really wanted to do coming into Reelfoot was be 100% sure that I was going to be in charge of my own destiny, and play a much more aggressive and also much more intentional game than I did in Survival Challenge.
That sounds like a lot like my takeaway from my Survival Challenge experience. It's just like I was like, no more. I'm gonna let other people dictate my destiny. I want to make sure I'm in full control of it. So I get that.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
at least you win and lose of your own doing that way. So,
mhm. So, how did you learn about Reelfoot?
um, yeah, I knew Justin. We both live in Boston and know each other pretty well. So I followed his season. Um, Survival Challenge is tough because it's such a short form game, and I really wanted to look for something that was a longer form game. I'm not a super outgoing person in my real life, and so I felt like it was really hard for me to build relationships in those very tiny chunks of time. So I was really looking for a game that allowed me more time to build relationships, to see if I really could succeed in that type of social setting. And Reelfoot is that game. So I was very excited to play.
So you applied for Reelfoot, you get cast. What do you do to prepare for it?
Great question. I was planning on doing a lot of things to prepare for Reelfoot. I was planning on working out a lot more than I normally do, and really taking time to like watch old episodes of Survivor, think a lot about the strategy that I wanted to have coming into the game. Unfortunately, my work life got very crazy the weeks leading up to the game, and so instead of going to the gym, I was actually just spending my entire life in the office in meetings, which was its own type of challenge. So I really didn't have a
The
lot of
social
time.
challenge, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was something. But I really didn't have a lot of time to mentally and physically prepare for the game, and get my mind right before I came there, or not as much as I thought I wanted to.
Now, I feel like of all the players in your season, you're one of the few players that seem to know what they're doing, at least outdoors wise, right? Because I know, took charge of the fire and knew how to use fire and flint. Do you have like that background in like camping and stuff like that?
I do. I backpack,
Mm-hmm.
I camp, I hike. I mean, I'm not like a crazy wilderness person, but like I don't feel like you should go on Survivor without knowing how to make fire. So, I wanted to know how to make fire.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also just part of, one of the parts of me taking my game into my own hands, and making sure that I was like an active participant in every part of the game. So,
Did you talk with Justin at all before going out and playing?
not much. Not
Mm-hmm.
much. I mean, I talked to him, right after his season. I talked to him a lot about his experience at that point, but
Mm-hmm.
didn't really talk to him that much about it after I knew I'd been cast. I just wanted to come into it,
Mm-hmm.
with a blank slate, kind of, playing my own game and living my own experience. I didn't really feel like I needed to have a bunch of background. I played one live game before. I was like, how bad can it be? 8 days, we'll see how it goes.
You already kind of talked a little bit about like how what your strategy you wanted to after the survival challenge. Is there anything else you want to elaborate on, like strategy or thoughts you had heading into Reelfoot?
I don't think so. I mean, really, I wanted to be intentional about
Mm-hmm.
everything that I did in the game. And I still think that we'll talk about that more later, but I still think there's things I could do better in that regard. But I really just wanted to make sure I wasn't floating.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I did. I think I did do that.
I guess my last question before we get to the game itself: what was your luxury item?
My luxury item was a stress ball. I think that Josh's luxury item was also a stress ball. And we had talked early in the game about taking them out during tribal council. But I never used that luxury item. But also, I feel like yoga mats are like a survival item. I'm not sure how I feel about people bringing full-on sleeping mats, but that's just my own personal opinion.
I mean, so if you could bring something beyond a stress ball, what would it be?
Well, I mean, obviously, the best luxury item is a very thick yoga mat. Like, sleeping on the ground sucks. It's
Mm-hmm.
super hard. Like, my hips had actual bruises on them from sleeping on the ground. So, yeah, that's the best luxury item,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
I mean, I remember survival challenge. Like I found like a waterproof blanket. I'm pretty sure they banned waterproof blankets after that experience. They're like no more. So I barely sneaked by on with that. Reelfoot, I definitely brought the thickest padded yoga mat I could find.
Yeah, that's the
So
right choice.
you arrive at Tennessee. You're sequestered in a room. Do you want to remind me who you were sequestered in a room with?
Josh and Julia.
Okay. Do you feel like that sequestering had any impact on your game? Because it seems to have varied. Some of these sequestering seem to have maybe made some light inroads in how the game ran.
I mean, I think everything starts impacting you immediately. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say it didn't have any impact. I didn't end up choosing someone who I was sequestered with in the pick. So I guess it didn't have that kind of impact. But I think the minute you see someone else who's in the game, every single interaction does matter, and you do see what people are doing, even in the sequester rooms. We were packing our stuff, so you could kind of see how big of a suitcase did someone bring, what were they packing, like were they organized, like you could just see things about people, and you have to be observant all the time. But no,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that being sequestered with those two people impacted my game massively in any way.
So the game starts, and unlike past seasons where tribes are set, here the game's going to start with a school pick'em. Do you remember who picked you and who you picked?
I remember who I picked. First of all, if you watch my survival challenge, you know I do not like schoolyard picks. I was picked last in a schoolyard pick in survival challenge, which was crazy. So I was freaking out when they said we were going to do a schoolyard pick. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I do not want to get picked last in the schoolyard pick. I think Sharif picked me,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that I picked Drew.
Mm-hmm. Well, how'd you come up on picking Drew?
he looked pretty athletic. He looked fun. Like I just picked him because I thought he might be someone that I might get along with. I mean, I had to pick a guy, so I can't remember who else was left at that point. But Drew seemed like he had a big personality, and I was excited about that.
Now, looking at this cast, is there anyone that you recognize or knew?
Yeah, I recognized Megs. We played one org together a long time ago. So I did recognize her.
Oh, Megan? Okay. So Megan warned me that her internet might not like her. It might cut out. So this happened maybe a little earlier than I was expecting. But feel free to post any comments or I'll chat with you as we wait for Megan to reconnect. I think she said she's going to use her hotspot from her phone. All right, you're back. Yay.
Yeah, hang on. Let me just let me get my internet straightened out here.
Okay, that was faster. I was expecting like more significant downtime than that.
Oh no, it usually comes right back, but sometimes when it starts going out, it just this happens a lot. So let me just let me switch my internet.
The true survivor is having functioning internet.
I know, right? Let me just switch to my phone here. Let's do that. All right, we should be good now. Great. Sorry about that.
You mentioned that you recognized Megs from an org you played a long time ago, but that was it.
Yep, that was it. I didn't recognize anyone else, and I was happy about that. Like, I wanted it to be a clean game. I wanted to play with people that I didn't know and see if I could build relationships. So I was excited to see a brand new group of faces.
Yeah. And thankfully, like Megs ends up going early, so there's gonna be no interplay with that at all.
Yep, exactly.
So after your tribe comes together, you're on the blue tribe, the Unoga tribe. Unfortunately, Josh is the other tribe. So your tribe is already kind of down the numbers 9 to 8. Were you worried about that at all?
I wasn't worried about that. I got picked pretty early in the schoolyard pick, so I felt like I was in at least a decent position. I wasn't at that point. I wasn't like afraid I was going to be first boot or anything like that. And I felt like the tribes, like on surface, looked pretty evenly matched in all of the outward characteristics. So yeah, I felt fine about it.
So your tribe is immediately told you need to vote for a player. We're not going to tell you what, but you need to vote for someone, and you'll figure out what happens after that. Who did you vote for and why?
I voted for Josh. I figured this early in the game we weren't voting someone out, and so I assumed we were voting for someone to make a decision on behalf of the tribe. And so I wanted to vote for someone who seemed like they were going to make a logical decision similar to a decision that I might make. And Josh just seemed very level-headed. I guess maybe being sequestered with Josh did give me that impression of him. But he seemed very level-headed, very logical. I was like, I feel like I could trust this guy to make a decision and it won't be crazy. So I voted for Josh.
However, Bash ends up winning the vote for your tribe, and he wins immunity, and he also wins the right to give a penalty medallion to a player in the tribe. That member will bear an extra vote at their first tribal council, and he ends up picking Sharif. But there's nothing really comes of this on your tribe, really.
No, I mean, it sounds like Bash and Casey made very similar decisions for similar reasons. And that makes a lot of sense to me why they made that decision. I don't think I, standing up there, would have thought of that logic, but I'm glad that it wasn't me and they both made good decisions that didn't significantly impact the game early. So
if you were put in that situation, do you know who would you have given the necklace to?
I have no idea. No idea. Like, I feel like the beginning of a game is always such a crazy rush and it's so hard to be really thinking critically. So yeah, I have no idea who I would have given it to, honestly.
So after this, you go into your first reward challenge. This is the memory match challenge. We have to flip over tiles and you get little rewards based off of what you get. How was this for you?
I was fine. I did get a few matches, which was good. I wasn't. It's always so hard when you're like standing in a circle trying to say, "Oh, are you good at this? Are you not good at this?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm with 8 people I've never met before. Like, good is relative, right?
I mean, you don't do this on your own for fun at home?
Yeah, every day. Every day. This is what I do in my free time. No, I don't. Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't like the tiles were laid out in a grid. They were like laid out in this random spiral pattern. It was like every time I stopped looking at the board, I forgot where every piece was. Like everyone's trying to talk to each other and give people hints, and I'm like, if I stop staring at these pieces, I'm gonna forget where everything is as soon as I look away. So I just stared at the board. When it was my turn, I was just like, all right, I'm gonna just do the best that I can and try to walk in a straight line and not forget where these pieces are while I'm going towards them. But I think I ended up getting 2 or 3 matches, so I felt like I added value in that challenge.
Did anyone in your tribe or any other tribe stand out to you from this challenge?
Oh, James. I mean, he was very good in this challenge. He stood out to me. I didn't think there was anybody in our tribe that was like particularly weak in this challenge. And that's what I would have been looking for at that point. I don't think there was anyone who was particularly weak. We didn't get as good of items as the other tribe, I don't think. But
you got sliced bread. I think that was the best item.
Oh yeah, the bread was amazing. The Tabasco was great too, and also it lived on in the game for many days. So that was great. But yeah, I mean, every little bit helps.
So you get to your new campsite. This is the yoga campsite pre-rain. And thankfully, you're not going to spend your entire game here, but you're going to spend the next couple days here. Talk me through just kind of the opening, setting up the tribe camp, and your initial thoughts on the other players.
Yeah, so I hate this part of the game
because
it's always chaotic, and I mean, I don't know. People don't know me in real life. I'm a type A person. I'm a senior manager. I do not mess around with like chaos in my work life or really in my personal life. And it is very hard for me to keep my mouth shut and just not get annoyed by chaos. So yeah, it was, when you get to camp, everyone wants to try to like do something, right? And everyone's running around everywhere like, let's put our shelter here, let's put our fire here. And people are like doing stuff, even though we haven't agreed on anything. And so I'm always just trying really hard to just be calm and just not give any direction, just take direction and just let everyone do whatever it is everyone else wants to do. Because frankly, I don't care where we build our shelter. I don't care where we put our fire. It's not important to me. I'm just trying to make sure that I can make relationships with these people and I don't rub anyone the wrong way. Because I feel like in those initial minutes where you first start talking, sometimes people do things that like ruins their entire game for no reason. So I was really just trying to lay low.
You're in charge of the fire.
Yes, I did end up making fire, which was great. Now I'm known as the fire maker, which was good. But I mean, I'm confident in being able to make fire. And that's something that I can just sit and focus on and not get bothered by everything else that's going on. I do actually love building things. So I think, I would love to, be an active shelter builder, but I feel like a lot of times the active shelter builders end up being the leaders. And then there's all of this like drama around how the shelter gets built and who's giving too much direction. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to make fire. Just chill and make fire.
So talk me through your initial impressions of everyone else.
Yeah. So I actually really liked everybody on blue. It was clear that Sharif was going to be a very strong social player immediately. By like a couple of hours into the game, he was already talking to everyone. It was very clear that he was so personable and everyone really liked him. But he's also a really big guy. So he was the one that I wanted to align with. And I'm so glad that worked out. I loved Barbara. Just so nice. And also like a really comforting presence to me, in the first day and throughout the whole game. Josh, I feel like I pegged him pretty well. He was pretty level-headed. Really nice guy. Drew, Also really fun, big personality, really like brought a lot of life and excitement to camp. And then I think Julia and Carly, I didn't really talk to them a ton in the very beginning of the game.
Mhm.
They were both really quiet. Both really nice people, but just very, very quiet.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything, a note that happened that first evening as you get the tribe set up?
I think Sharif and I made an alliance, I think that first evening, if not that first evening, then very shortly after. He was really like my ideal type of ally in a game like this. He was way more social than I was, which is exactly what I want in an ally. I'm never going to be the most personable one in a group of people. It takes me a while to get to know people. So I was really excited that he wanted to work with me. And we also both talked about how we didn't need to talk all the time. I also cannot have needy allies. Like, I'm not an emotional support animal. I don't like comfort people. Like, this is not who I am. So I really don't want to have allies that are super paranoid and need me to talk to them and reassure them all the time, because that's not going to happen. I think the only other thing, I forgot to talk about Bash. Bash and I actually, when we, like, before we even started the memory challenge, Bash and I had already sort of connected. We're both festival people. I actually was really wanting to work with Bash the beginning, day one before the memory challenge. And even like through making camp and things like that, Bash was like running around, like destroying trees and like being super crazy. But I actually felt, I was really excited to work with him. I felt like we were an unlikely pair and we could have really had a very interesting alliance through the game.
So, end of day one, how was that first night for you?
It was fine. It didn't rain, so I already knew from Survival Challenge that I hate rain. I had a lot of it.
I mean, you pretty much had like a tsunami, it felt like, in your Survival Challenge season.
Yeah, I think there was like a season a couple years earlier that had like an actual massive tsunami. Yeah, that you okay. But yes, it did rain almost the entire time we were there. Yeah, I don't like being cold. And so I brought actually what I would consider a pretty heavy coat to Reelfoot, and they let me bring it on to the game. So that was great. I was still freezing the first night. I don't think people had quite realized when we were laying down to go to sleep the first night that you actually like need to sleep close to other people physically in order to stay warm. But I think we figured that out as the night went on. But yeah, first night wasn't too bad.
So day two comes, and this is where you kind of start your reward challenge streak. So this opens up with the SOS challenge. How was this for you?
Yes, this is another challenge where I was trying just not to do too much. I think Josh took the lead on this one mostly for our tribe, and he did a great job. I mean, everybody participated, but nobody was doing too much. We actually worked really well together. Everyone shared ideas. We sort of listened to them and made semi-democratic decisions. Barbara had like 1 million rolls of toilet paper, which was great. So I think we ended up mostly winning because of the color pattern that we had put together. But yeah, this challenge was fun. And oh my God, we needed those luxury items so bad. I didn't even realize how bad we needed those items until it started raining. Like, I don't know what we would have actually done if we hadn't done this challenge.
Yeah, because this challenge gives you sleeping mats, a chair, and a tarp, right?
We get a tarp, a chair, sleeping mats, and I think we got the blankets. We got a blanket.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I think during this challenge as well. Yeah, if we hadn't had a separate second tarp, I honestly don't know what we would have done in that camp. It would have been bad, very bad.
And then you have your next reward challenge, and this is the slip and slide challenge. Do you remember who you go up against?
Yes, Angela. Yeah. This was another fun challenge. although I do have, like, I had scratches all over my body from that slip and slide. It was that was a fun challenge though. It was physical. We got to kayak, which I loved. These are like the type of challenges that I really wanted to participate in. I am an athlete. I play sports. I love physical challenges, and so this was a really fun one.
So your tribe also wins this challenge. Now, at this point, have you heard or starting to learn about the idol clues that are being kind of hidden as part of these rewards? Because at this point, Barbara's found 2, and then Josh has found 1.
I don't think I knew about the idol clues until after we took the boat ride.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's after this challenge.
Yeah, which is it's the slip and slide challenge, gives you the lunch and the boat ride.
Okay, great. So Josh never told me about his idol clue. Barbara told me about her idol clue. I think it was after the boat. I think. But I don't think I think she had ended up with multiple clues somehow. I don't feel like the first one she told me was very specific. And I'm not sure if she told me the whole thing.
What's your philosophy on idols? Do you want to have them? Do you want to know who has them? Do you just want them out of the game? What do you want to do with them?
Usually I want them out of the game unless I have them. No, I would like to either have my closest ally have them, or have them out of the game. I feel like I'm not one who can like play around an idol well. I'm not that good of a liar, and I don't want to have to deal with that.
How hard were you idol hunting then at this point in the game?
I wasn't idol hunting that hard at this point in the game. I think it wasn't until we started thinking about potential vote outs and trying to prevent other people from getting idols, and then we were hunting.
So at this point in day 2, like, who are you starting to feel comfortable with, and like, are you starting to hear any strategy or potential votes get floated your way?
Yeah, I mean, Sharif and I are still working pretty well together. And I'm starting to feel more comfortable with Barbara, and also talking to Josh. I was starting to feel more comfortable with Josh as well. I feel like Bash and I didn't talk as much on this day, and I think that probably looking back on it, maybe should have talked more and touched base more. But I was starting to feel like Barbara, Josh, Sharif, and I were forming some good relationships.
Your next challenge ends up being a pretty important one, at least for the shaping of the strategy. This is the Floor is Lava challenge. How was this for you?
Yeah. This challenge, I mean, we won this challenge, so it was fine. So I think at this point I had started talking to Carly a little bit, and I really wanted Carly to take a lead in this challenge. Like, I could see that she felt like she could do more. And so I think in the beginning of this challenge, I tried to get Carly, like, she said she was good at memory. I was like, okay, Carly, like, when we get to the other side, we should listen to you. Like, you should take the lead in the memory part. And that's kind of what I wanted to see happen, because I wanted to see Carly's game progress and for her to come out of her shell a little bit more. But obviously we all know what happened in this challenge. I think Storm said that he actually saw me roll my eyes at Drew, which I'm sure I did. But it wasn't because Drew wasn't doing great. He was great in this challenge, but like, I really wanted the quieter women on the tribe to have a chance to like step up and advance their games. And I felt like he was preventing that from happening. And that was my frustration in this challenge.
And so your tribe ends up winning this challenge as well. You get, I think I have the list as you get pillows and blankets and popsicles from this as well.
Nice. Yeah. And this is when I should have known that Bash's memory was incredible. I should have known right here that he was going to win that memory challenge down the line. Because he was creating these crazy, like he was building a sentence with like the first letter of the color of every block. Like I remember coming across the boards and him saying, will you just remember this phrase? And he told me some phrase, I don't remember what it was now, but it was very clear that he had like a memory strategy, and it worked really well because the phrase he told me like actually made sense. Like I couldn't do that. I would have come up with like 8 random words, not a sentence. He came up with like a full sentence that made sense, which was amazing.
So, having won all the reward challenges, are you feeling pretty confident for any future mini challenges?
Yeah, I mean, we were winning the reward challenges, I would say, pretty handily. I don't think that memory challenge was that close. So yeah, I mean, I was feeling great. Who doesn't love winning challenges? Like, let's do it.
Are you starting to actually like after that challenge? Are you starting to hear Drew's name being thrown out to you as well?
Yeah, I think there were a few people that were frustrated with Drew after that challenge. I don't know if we actually threw his name out then or if it was just immediately after the challenge. But yeah, I was very frustrated after that challenge with Drew. And I think Drew and I would honestly get together, get along amazing outside of the game. But that was just like, that really frustrated me a lot.
It was, you mentioned like when you picture this, you're like, he seems like a fun personality, someone who I think I'd really enjoy working with. Is that something you had tried the work on day 2, or just like things just weren't working out between you and him?
I don't think. I mean, I think we had a fine relationship throughout day 2 and really until that challenge. I was trying to put more work in with Carly and Julia, I think, on day 2, just because I felt like they were very quiet. And to me, a little bit that meant that they were still up for grabs, and maybe they hadn't had as many conversations with people. And so maybe they would be more apt to stick with me if I could build a relationship with them. Whereas Drew was clearly like, he was outgoing. He was talking to people. It wasn't, it wasn't an issue.
And so this leads to your first immunity challenge, then the day 2. And this is the obstacle course challenge. You either navigate through an obstacle course, do a ladder puzzle, come back and solve one final puzzle as a tribe. Where were you in this challenge?
I don't think I took any particular leadership roles in this challenge. Just along for the ride. I mean, we got to the end first. I think Josh had one of the puzzle pieces under his knee or something at some point. It's unlucky, like just a very unlucky loss for us.
And so, having lost this challenge, how was the scramble back at camp that evening?
It was fun. I mean, I think Drew's name was a consensus pretty early. The biggest problem was making sure that he didn't find or have an idol. At that point, we all knew there were idol clues out there, I think. And this is also a point where I think my relationship with Josh changed a bit, because I think, so Barbara told me about the idol clues that she had. And so at some point I realized that Josh had a clue. And I think I tried specifically to get him to tell me, like, hey, have you heard anything about these idol clues? I said something to him at some point, and he did not tell me about what he knew. And I think that's the point where I lost trust with Josh a little bit, just because I think Drew maybe shared his clues with Josh. I'm not sure exactly how this went down. It was a long time ago, but I knew that Josh had information that he did not tell me and that he told other people. And that concerned me.
So could you rank your tribe from most important to your game to least important to your game at end of day 2?
End of day 2.
Yeah, so this is you haven't gone to your first. You've had your first mini challenge, but you haven't gone to tribal council yet.
Yeah, so I would say Sharif probably the most important, and then Barbara, because Barbara was giving me a lot of information at that point. Then probably, then maybe Bash, because I actually still thought I had a pretty good relationship with Bash, and then Josh, and then Carly and Julia, and then Drew.
Anything else happened that evening before you go to bed that night?
I don't think so. It hadn't rained yet, right?
I think the rain is going to happen a lot of day 3.
Okay. So no, I think it was just all about trying to find that idol and thinking about whether or not Drew had it.
How hard were you searching now?
I was looking pretty hard. But not that much based on any knowledge I had of any clues, other than that I knew it was near the path. So we were all tearing up the path. Like, it was crazy. Like, I don't quite understand where exactly that idol was, and I have no idea how we didn't find it. Like, everyone was looking and no one was hiding it at that point. So it was crazy.
So night 2 leads to day 3, and you go to your first tribal council, where things go according to plan.
Yes, things go according to plan, except for, I think this is the vote where Sharif puts a vote on Julia.
Yes. Was that a surprise to you?
I think so. I can't remember if Sharif told me he was going to put a vote on Julia. I think it was a surprise. I think that was a surprise. I think that was something Sharif felt like he needed to do to protect himself, and I don't think he told me.
I mean, so what were there any repercussions with that, with your relationship with Sharif?
No, I mean, it didn't make a difference in the vote, and like he had the karma medallion on at that point, so that was kind of our first opportunity to see how that might affect the way people voted, and it made sense, right? He had a vote against him. He wanted to make sure someone else had a vote on them. That makes sense. And I mean, if it had been someone that I was super close to, I'm sure it would have affected our relationship more. But given that I was not super close to Julia at that point, I didn't feel like he, owed it to me to tell me that he was going to do that.
Yeah, so Drew goes out in a 6-1 vote, and he ends up giving the medallion to Barbara on exit.
Yes.
Which were you expecting that?
No. I think Sharif. I think the reason that Sharif put that vote on Julia is so that Josh wouldn't give him the medallion back. This was the first time the medallion was given to someone at tribal, so I'm not really sure I knew where it was going to go. I mean, I didn't expect to get it because I didn't feel like Drew and I had built a super close relationship, so I wasn't that concerned that he was going to give it to me.
So was there any follow-up to this tribal council for you? And I guess, are you thinking, like, what happens when you go back to tribal council? Do you already have a name in mind that you want to push for that?
I did not have a name in mind. So I had been very open very early, especially with all of the women on the tribe, that I did not want a woman to be the first vote out. And especially I didn't want it to be Barbara, because I feel like that's such a classic Survivor thing to vote out the oldest woman on your tribe first. So I really just wanted to make sure that first vote wasn't Barbara. I think once we had the numbers in terms of gender, that did make me think a little bit about how we might continue to play together. And so, yeah, I did have a couple conversations after that tribal with Barbara and Carly and Julia about that.
What was I going to say? Yeah, so from here you go to your next mini challenge, which will later become a reward challenge. This is the balls in the haystack challenge. We have to find the balls. You have to use a vertical table maze. How was the challenge for you?
I was a runner, so it was fine. You just, you found balls or you didn't find balls. Like, it was not, as long as you didn't pick up a stack that someone had already picked up, then you were doing your job, right? It wasn't like you could tell where the balls were. was fine. I didn't see the incident with the production throwing that ball out to the other team. I didn't really realize that it happened until afterward.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this one, I think Carly was the last on the maze on this one, and she was the one who ended up, they won while she was trying to complete the maze. So I think she was pretty upset after this challenge. But yeah, no, this challenge was fine.
So your tribe loses, but you're told pretty quickly, like, hey, it's a technical mistake from production. It's now a reward challenge. Were you relieved?
Well, yeah, obviously, I don't want to go to tribal council, and honestly, I didn't really have a great read on what I wanted the next vote to be. I didn't think I was in danger at all, so that was okay. But I didn't have like a clear next vote out in my mind.
So this is kind of middle of day 3, and I kind of want to talk about your responsibility as a fire tender, right? Because from talking to a lot of people, it sounds like day 1, day 2, you were very active in collecting firewood. And then day 3, you kind of transitioned to just staying by the fire. And I'm going to bring up a comment from Josh. He's like, were you aware that we all thought you had the idol at this point because everyone saw this change in behavior from you? Just like, she found it. She's no longer searching.
No, I was not aware that people thought I had an idol at that point, and I didn't feel like I wasn't consciously trying to change my behavior. But this was day 3, and I'm pretty sure this is the day that it started raining.
Yeah.
And like, I hate rain. I hate it so much. It just has a very significant physical effect on me. I don't know if it's because I'm such a small person and I get so cold, or like it just mentally affects me. Like, I was not happy in that rain. So maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. Or maybe it was the amazing chair that we won in the reward challenge. That
You're like, this is my chair, and I'm going to use it.
Yeah, I loved that chair. That was great.
Okay, because that's been the most amusing thing about nearly everyone. Just like, we don't know where the idol is, but we're pretty sure Megan has it because we've all seen this change in behavior from her, and everyone just assumes you have it at this point going forward.
I really wish that I had done that on purpose, but unfortunately,
I mean, Josh is saying like it would be a great strategy to make people think you have it, but like,
thank you for all the credit. Appreciate that.
And so you go to your next mini challenge. This is the idle hand challenge, where you knock the little idol off a person's platform. I take it this is not your favorite challenge.
Oh, I hate this challenge. I am really bad at this. Like, this is a known skill that I do not have. I was also terrible at this when we did it in Survival Challenge. But we were in partners, and my partner won the whole challenge, so I got the challenge box anyway. Yeah, I am terrible at this challenge, and I knew I was terrible, but I think I did contribute strategy to this challenge, actually, because I think I was the one who suggested that we throw matchups. I was like, I know I am terrible at this. I should go against their strongest player if possible, because that way we'll have a better chance to win other matchups. And so I think we did actually try to execute on that strategy with some of our matchups in this challenge.
Who were you up? Do you remember who you went up against?
Ryan? I think maybe Ryan.
And I take it Ryan must have won then.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So this challenge does not go well for your tribe, and you lose the challenge, and you're going to go back to tribal council. And you kind of mentioned before you weren't quite sure who you wanted to vote out. So now kind of walk me through the strategy for this tribal council for you.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. So this was before this tribal council was when Bash and Josh and Sharif got in their argument, I think, where Bash felt like he was not being communicated with enough. And I witnessed his conversation with Josh a little bit. And so I think Sharif actually at some point during this conversation suggested potentially voting Bash. I think that was this vote. I did not want to do that at this point. Honestly, I didn't really want to vote Julia, but I didn't feel like I could stick my neck out for her at this point, and I didn't feel like she was like helping me enough in the game for me to take that risk.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I just like her and Carly were still like, they were both very quiet at this point. And I was like, I can't stick my neck out for somebody who's not like really pushing hard in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when Julia became the consensus, I just kind of let it be.
Mm-hmm. So at Tribal Council, this is where a story this season emerges. It's a 5-1-1-1 vote with your 5 votes in Julia. Barbara gets the penalty vote. Julia votes for Bash, and then Bash votes for you. And this will be a reoccurring
Yes,
theme of this
the
season.
beginning of the best of frenemies. Yeah, I was livid that Bash wrote my name down in this Tribal Council. This is Survivor. You don't write down people's names who you do not want to go home, or at least are okay if they go. Like, you don't do that. And so the fact that he would write my name down because of an argument that he had, not with me, with other people, I was just like, what the hell is going on here? And why did that happen? Oh, I was mad. I was very mad.
So what was your reaction when you saw that vote come through?
I don't remember in what order Amos read those votes. I think it was already clear by time he read my, like, I'd already seen some Julia votes by time he read my name. Yeah, I was shocked. I had no idea Bash was going to write my name down.
And so did you, like, how did you find out that he was the one that did it?
Oh, he admitted it. He admitted it pretty immediately afterward. Like, I think on the way out of Tribal, I was like, who wrote my name down? Like, what the hell, guys? And I think he said he did. And I think we had a conversation about it later. I can't remember exactly what the reason was that he gave me.
Yeah, that's this is the question for Barker is like, do you remember what Bash told you about why he wrote your name down?
I don't remember what reason he gave me, because whatever he said, I was like, that's bull. Like, I don't believe you, and that's not a good reason. like I said, there's only one reason you write someone's name down at Tribal Council, because you want them to go home. Like, that's the reason you write people's name down at Tribal. So yeah, it didn't really matter to me what Bash said at that point.
So at that point, was your relationship with Bash just kind of like broken?
It wasn't totally broken, but I think that's the point where I started seeing more and more of what I considered irrational behavior. And like, I'm a very logic driven person. I cannot like strategize with someone who is not going to, who I can't count on to make logical decisions. I can't count on him as a number in a vote. He voted for me when there was no like, we all knew Julia didn't have an idol. Like, there was no reason to cast that vote. Anyway, I'm gonna let it go. But yeah, no, I think it was pretty broken. I mean, we still tried to repair it, I think, in a couple subsequent cases, but it was not happening, clearly.
So had your tribe gone to Tribal Council again, what would you have done?
Well, I mean, I think at that point, if people had thrown out Bash's name, I certainly would have been happy to vote for Bash at that point, which I think I was the one who advocated for not voting for him the prior vote. So it's my own stupid fault. But yeah, I mean, I'm guessing if we had gone again, I think it would have been either Bash or Carly. I'm not sure how everyone else would have felt about voting Bash, and at that point, like, I'm not sure if we could have gotten enough people to vote Bash to have it not be Carly.
So you then have your last immunity challenge of the day, and this is you have to maneuver the balls through the chicken coop wire, through the PVC pipe, finally to the heavy table maze to solve. How was this challenge for you?
Oh, this was a really fun challenge. I really liked this one. I got to do the chicken wire, and I got to do the table maze, which is like one of the classic Survivor challenges, and that was super fun to do. It was also super hilarious to watch Barbara do this challenge. Like, I don't know why they decided to stand in that order. Like, Barbara is not as tall as Sharif. Like, that was That did not really make a lot of sense. But it worked out. Like, she was holding the pipe up, and I think on the last ball she shut her eyes. Like, I think she shut her. It was amazing. Kudos to Barbara for being able to hold that pipe up with those guys. But yeah, that was a fun challenge. And actually, Josh was amazing at this challenge. Like, I remember watching him, because Ryan, I think he was in the same position as Ryan, and Ryan was having a lot of trouble like figuring out how to get the last piece of pipe to line up with the bucket. And the way that Josh was like, would get the ball and then he would cradle it, and then he would like pull the whole PVC pipe down and like gently drop the ball in the bucket. It was amazing. I mean, Josh was actually really good at a lot of the challenges, but this one I felt like he stood out a lot.
Barbara liked to point out that her eyes were shut all the time.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And your tribe wins, so you kind of break your losing streak and take a victory. Finally. And as you rounded close to the end of day 3, had your kind of importance, if that order you put your tribe in earlier, had that changed that much at all?
Well, Bash had gone down in my importance because I was done trying to figure out what he was doing. I think by this point, I was starting to get like a little strategically concerned about Josh, but that doesn't mean he wasn't important to my game. That just meant that I was starting to get worried about him. So yeah, I don't think it changed a lot.
Now, something that like several players, both Josh and Sharif said one of their regrets is not targeting Bash at that second tribal council. Is that a regret you have as well?
I don't know. I feel like it's really hard to say that was a regret, because that was just not something that I was considering at that point. And I don't know what would have had to happen in the game for me to feel like I wanted to target him at that point. So no, I mean, I don't regret not targeting him at that point. I regret not getting him eventually before the end, but I don't think that vote would have, I don't think that was the place. Like, I don't think we were getting him at that point.
So what happens next is Josh is taken away from your camp, and you learn that there's going to be a tribe swap that Josh and Angela have orchestrated. And each tribe is going to be 4 original yellow, 3 original blue, so you're going to be the down numbers no matter what. And you move from Unoga to the Kawanu tribe. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so a few thoughts on that. So one, it was clear to me that Josh did not value me as much as Barbara and Sharif at that point.
Josh says, big regret sending you the yellow.
I knew he was close to Barbara, like socially, emotionally, but I still thought there was a chance that he would take myself and Sharif and send Barbara to yellow if he had the choice. And I'm not like 100% sure exactly how that conversation went down and why he made the decision that he did, but that was an eye-opening moment for me in terms of where I was at in that 4. However, I do remember standing on the mat day 1 and being really upset that I wasn't on a tribe with Angela or Lauren. I was really excited to get to know them. So from that perspective, I was excited. The problem that I was having was Bash had just written my name down, and I didn't feel like I had a super strong working relationship with Carly. So having us 3 go to yellow and trying to figure out how I was going to keep us together in a potential vote was concerning to me. But I also think it like kind of gave me a kick in the pants. Like, you need to build relationships with these other people, because Bash is not afraid to write your name down. So that can happen again. I also think at that point we did not know what yellow's camp looked like, and we thought our camp was great. Like, we thought blue camp was great. We had a ton of luxury items, and I was like, I don't want to leave all those luxury items, like my blankets, my extra sleeping mat, my extra tarp. Like, I don't want to go over here to this yellow camp. Like, I don't want to move. I like my spot. So before I got to yellow camp, I was also not that happy about that.
Well, one of the big differences is that Yellow Camp, to my understanding, wasn't a mud pit at this point.
Uh, Yellow Camp was like the Taj Mahal at all points,
Hmm.
at all points in the game. Their path was very muddy at this,
Hmm.
even at this point. So like I think we got there in the dark. It was pretty late in the day or early evening when we did the tribe swap. So as we were walking down the path to Yellow Camp, I was like, this is not fun. They had already had to put boards down because it was so muddy they couldn't walk. Um, but then we got there and I was like, oh my God, this is like walking into a beautiful wonderland. Like there's so much open space. It's
Hmm.
not muddy. It's like gorgeous. You can see the stars. There are nice trees. There's shade. It's flat. Like it was amazing.
So, did you miss your chair? Because Josh enjoyed it while you were gone.
Yes, of course I missed my chair. However, if I could have chosen to be at Yellow Camp or have the chair, I would definitely have chosen Yellow Camp. Like Blue Camp was hell on earth. That place was it was bad. It was
So,
bad.
let's say you were in Josh's position, right? You had received the medallion, so you had to then go to the summit to select your tribes. What would your ideal tribe look like? Who from blue and who from yellow?
um so I definitely would have kept Sharif with me.
Hmm.
Um I think I would have either I probably would have taken Sharif and Josh with me, honestly.
Hmm.
Because I think if I had taken Barbara with me, then I wouldn't have been able to get both Lauren and Angela, and those are the people that I really wanted to meet and work with on Yellow.
Hmm.
So I think my priority would have been trying to get those four people together,
Hmm.
and then obviously like that would have meant that the rest of the people shook out a certain way based on you know
Yeah.
strengths that people saw in them. So, but that would have been my priority, I think.
So, if Bash voting for you is one of my favorite stories this season, my second favorite story this season is you arrive to the Koana camp,
Oh.
and I take it you go and make fires.
Well, someone so it had already been raining, so they
Hmm.
didn't have a fire going, and
Hmm.
it had been raining, but they did have this like tree to keep their wood dry. So yeah, someone said, "Oh, we heard you could make fire," and I was like, "Yeah, I can make fire." So I'm like, "All right, let me go make fire," and I was like, "All right, where's your flint?" So they tell me where the flint is, and I get the flint, and I'm like, "Where's your striker?" And they're like, "What? What do you mean we don't have a striker?" And I was like, "What do you mean you don't have a striker?" They're like, "Oh yeah, Keenan's been using the machete," and I was like, "Okay, great." The flint is like you can't use the striker with this flint anymore because like the steel part of it is like not raised. Like it's completely flattened. I was like, oh my God. Like I've never made fire with a machete. Like I don't have a machete in my house, guys. I've never made fire with a machete. Um, so yeah, I was like, oh my God, I don't even know if I can make fire with a machete. And also who destroyed this flint?
Are you able to get the? Are you able to make a fire though?
Oh yeah, I made a fire. But I would love to see. I would love to do a fire making challenge with Keenan. That would be fun.
I mean, what like there are a couple of things I'm sad about this season. One that's you and Keenan not being on the same tribe.
I know. I'm sad we never even got to meet in the game, which
Hmm.
was really sad.
Um, so you're meeting four people for the first time. You're meeting Angela, Lauren, Ryan, and Storm. Talk me through your first meetings and impressions of them.
Yeah. So Angela, Lauren, Ryan, and Storm. Um, so immediately when we get back to camp, we have to do this raft building thing. So we're all trying to meet each other, and we're also like trying to figure out how we're going to build this raft. So I think immediately everyone's like, oh yeah, Ryan's a great builder. They like show me the shelter he's made. I'm talking to Ryan. He seems like a really cool guy. I also love building things. So I was really excited to build this raft with Ryan.
Hmm.
So he seemed really cool. Angela and Lauren, I mean, I think we hit it off right away. I could tell that they were close,
Hmm.
but also like both athletes, both competitors. Like I was stoked to get to meet them. I really was. And then Storm, I feel like he didn't really have a very good read on Storm in the beginning. Like he did like destroy Bamboo when we were making our raft. Like he was so strong. I was like, oh my God, this man is like a beast. But I think I really like misread Storm strategically at that point. Like I did not see his strategic game at that point, and that might have been him doing that on purpose. But yeah, I was just like, oh, this guy's like really nice guy, but he doesn't seem like he's like outwardly a strategic mastermind or anything.
Now, do you bring Sebastian and Carly yourself together and say, hey, we need to stick together, we need to figure things out? Like, does that happen at all?
I think we did talk about it, and I talked to Carly a lot. At this point, I think we were trying to figure out, like, could we get the girls to vote with us? Like, I'm sure Carly and Bash and I did talk about sticking together, but like, didn't believe Bash was going to stick with me. Like, come on.
Did you feel like Bash was jumping ship?
I don't know if I felt strongly that he was jumping ship at this point. But I was a bit in like a as long as it's not me type of mindset. So I feel like we were all not that we were all jumping ship, but we were all trying to make relationships for ourselves. Because like one of us was probably going. So I think I didn't want it to be me.
And so what did you think that your best strategy or plan was to ensure that it wasn't you at this point?
Oh, to get to work with Angela and Lauren, to make sure that they didn't want me to go. And also just generally to be valuable, make fire, help build this raft, like make people think that I could be a good challenge asset. I was willing to do anything. So yeah, I definitely tried to make sure that I was not perceived as the weakest of the three.
And I think that like this swap ends up being such a key moment to your game because, like you said, you're like very excited to work with Lauren and Angela, and I think you're someone they're also extremely excited to work with as well. And there's at least from what I gathered, the three of you invest a lot of time in each other in the span of the next day and a half.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think just on a personal level, we all connected really well immediately. And like I said, I was very open throughout the entire game about how much I wanted to support other women and make sure other women were successful in this game. I think everyone knew that about me from day one, and I was not trying to hide it. And that's something that we all three talked about as well.
So anything else you want to bring up for night 3?
We got to sleep outside under the stars around a fire. It was beautiful. It wasn't a mud pit. It was amazing. Night 3 was great.
So day 4, you open up with the Fishing for Immunity challenge. Where were you in this challenge? And why is it your favorite?
Not my favorite challenge. I was on the raft for this challenge. So this is another moment where I feel like Bash and I grew apart. So I like to make a plan and then execute the plan. Like I'm a very type A person. This is just, I have to try to tone it down in Survivor situations, but I can't really. The original plan was that Lauren and I were going to be on the raft. And I think Bash was going to run. Bash said he was great at word puzzles. So he was like wanted to be on the puzzle. So I think Bash was originally going to run and Lauren and I were going to be on the raft. And then the other 3 were going to swim. But right before the challenge started, Bash was like, no, I want to change. I want to be on the raft. Lauren should run. Whatever. I don't care. But like, I do not like to change the plan at the last minute. And like, I especially don't like it when people ask me to change my role at the last minute because I don't want to do that. I prepare for stuff. I want to be ready. So anyway, they end up switching roles. It's fine. Like we lose it in the puzzle. So, which is because we should have had Angela do that puzzle. Like, I don't know what we were thinking.
It's again, like it was, I watched y'all get victory and like, you're like a victory seat. I'm like, I think they're just like 1 or 2 letter swaps away. And then like you get rid of victory. And I was like, oh, And it's all downhill from there.
Yeah, but then we went back and got victory, started doing victory again.
Mm-hmm.
That was unfortunate. Also, I feel like it was like all such a rush in the moment. Like, I know people were saying it because I think someone said that, like, Josh said it or something, like, audibly, even though no one was supposed to help us. So no one was paying attention. It was crazy. But also, like, I feel like Bash and I just did not work well together in that challenge. Like, he kept stacking the letters, and I was like, why would you ever stack the letters? Like, I need to be able to see all the letters all the time. Anyway, not a great challenge for us.
Were you hoping that the Onoga 2.0 tribe was going to throw challenges for you?
Oh, no. I would never throw a challenge, and I would never expect someone to throw a challenge for me. You never throw challenges in Survivor. I would not throw a challenge ever in any situation, ever.
Did you know about the KC situation?
Yes, I think Ryan had already made it clear that he hated KC.
All right, yeah.
Not as a person, just in the game. There was a rivalry there. I think it was talked about, yes.
So your tribe loses the challenge, and so you're in anyone but me mode. What do you do?
I think this might be the time when Casey comes up to me after the challenge and tries to tell me that Ryan has an idol.
Okay, I didn't realize that happened.
Yes, so after this, I think it was after this challenge, Casey comes up to me after the challenge, like, we're trying to, like, get water buckets or something like that. And he goes, "Oh, Ryan has an idol." And he says it to me, and I feel like it's, like, in front of people. Like, Ryan might have even seen him say it. Like, it was obvious. But anyway, I believe that I then went back and told Ryan that he had said that to me, because I was like, I need to earn goodwill with these people. Like, I should not vote it out. I'm going to try to prove to them that I want to work with them. I'm going to tell them what Casey told me. And then Ryan was like, "Oh, no, I don't have an idol," which obviously he was lying because he did have an idol. But whatever, neither here nor there. I really thought we were going to vote Bash in that vote. Like, I was left out of that vote. I really thought it was going to be Bash. I think it was actually, like, a little bit closer to being me than I would like to think, but
yeah, I mean, if you listen to, like, Storm's recap, he really wanted to push for you, right? And Lauren and Angela really said, "No, we're not doing Megan."
Well, that's good. At least my relationship building helped me a little bit.
Because Storm felt like, this could be our only shot to take you out, and like, from this outside of this tribal council, I don't feel like you're in serious danger until the end game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if we had lost again, it could have been bad, but because of that, I think it would have been interesting to see whether they would have voted me or Bash if we had lost again. But luckily, that didn't happen.
So you're not expecting Carly to be blindsided like this?
No, I'm not.
And so Carly gets blindsided in a 5-1-1 vote. A 5-2-1 vote, and Angela ends up receiving the medallion.
Which I vote for Bash.
What?
I voted for Bash.
That's true. You do get the vote for Bash here. Talk to me about that feeling.
Yeah, he wrote my name down. I didn't feel bad about writing his name down. I would have rather had Carly in the game. I knew that Bash and I were already starting to burn bridges. And, like, I thought that everyone else was voting him, and he was the one who said he was good at word puzzles, and we did lose that challenge. So, like, logically in my mind, I was like, I thought I was on the right side of the vote. I wasn't just writing his name down to write it down.
Did you like talk it out with him afterwards?
I did. That was after I realized I was on the wrong side of that vote. That was very concerning to me, especially considering what happens next. But yeah, I felt like I had really done a pretty good job of building relationships, and the fact that they left me out of that vote was really concerning to me. Yes, I was very scared. That was not a good feeling.
And so were you, like, going back to Laura and Angela saying, "Hey, I really want to work with you.
Yeah.
What's going on?"
Yeah, like, I think they ended up saying that, like, they weren't sure if I would have told Carly, and that there was a lot of idol paranoia. So like it made sense why they didn't tell me. Like I don't think that
Mm-hmm.
like if I was them, I probably wouldn't have told me either, because I was wielding no power at that point. So it wasn't like them giving me information was like in any way their best interest, right? On the off chance that we did have an idol between the three of us and we were playing them, like I would have done the same thing. So
Mm-hmm.
it made sense when they explained to me that, hey, like we weren't sure if someone had an idol, we just didn't want to take any chances. Like that made sense to me. I would have done that.
How comfortable were you feeling on this tribe? Like, do you feel like you would have been able, if your tribe had gone to the tribal council a second time, would you have been okay?
After knowing what everyone was thinking at this point, I did not realize how quickly they picked up on the fact that Bash was going to be really important to all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I still, even though they left me out of that vote, I still wasn't feeling terrible about my position.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I was definitely feeling like I needed to do work with Ryan and Storm, and that
Mm-hmm.
probably I needed to do work with Ryan, really, because I don't think I had a great working relationship with Storm at this point, or really at any point during the game.
Would you feel like you were able to kind of develop that over the course of day 4?
I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like in that group, Ryan or Storm and I ever really had a great one-on-one relationship. Like we worked fine in a group together, but I didn't feel like I had a great one-on-one relationship with either of them. And like they had idols, they didn't tell, like they had a lot of information that they never told me. So
Mm-hmm.
whether or not I felt like my relationship was good with them, I don't feel like it was, I don't think they were fighting for me at that next tribal for sure.
So one of the things that happens is Angela finds a mutiny advantage. Is that something she shares and tells you about?
Nope, I did not know about that.
Okay. So I think the next challenge is the Pete's Palooza challenge. This is the running/trivia challenge with basketball at the very end. How was this for you?
It was fine, except for right before the challenge, again, Bash tries to switch spots with me. So Lauren decides she's going to run the furthest, and then Bash takes the 5 leg, and I take the 4 leg because Ryan said he was tired. So I was like, I'll run the 4 leg. You can run the 3 leg. It's fine. But right before the challenge, Bash was like, I don't know if I can run the 5 leg. Will you run the 5 leg? And I was like, no. Why are we talking about this right now? Like, we're about to start running. Like, I don't want to talk about this right now. But actually, I was so lucky in this challenge because this was the trivia challenge with the book about the snakes and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Storm actually told me the answer to my trivia question right before this challenge. And I do not know if I would have known the answer otherwise. And that was a long run to do twice. So I got very lucky. Storm happened to know that fact and told it to me right before the challenge.
Do you remember what that fact was?
It was like what snakes like live near water or something. The answer was cottonmouth. But yeah, I think it was something like that. But like I read the question. I was like, oh my God, I'm so happy right now. Like I've never been happier in my life. Yeah, so that was lucky.
So the challenge ends up being a surprisingly close one, with Ryan clinching the victory at the very end, and you feel very safe.
You, Ryan. Thank you for saving my game, Ryan.
So, I mean, Unoga's going to go to its first tribal council, and it'll be down to 12 players. Were you anticipating the merge real soon?
I mean, we were all talking about the merge all the time at this point. Also, yeah, like we were hungry. Yes, we all wanted to merge. I didn't pick on the whole how many holes are there in the torch holder at tribal council thing. Like I'm not that kind of observant. But yeah, obviously I wanted to make the merge just on a personal level. I felt like that was a huge milestone for me, and I was really excited.
So Dina gets voted out at the Blue Tribal Council, and then you receive tree mail saying, "Hey, another challenge." And so you walk to the challenge site, and talk me through how things unfold from your perspective.
So I find out Dina's gone, and they tell us we're gonna swap. I'm like, I don't want to swap. So the problem was, the reason that I didn't want to swap was because I felt like I had not solidified any relationships yet. Because I hadn't, like, you have to vote with people for them to know that you are with them. And like, I had been left out of that last vote, and I was like, I don't really know where I stand right now. So the swap happens, and then the mutinies happen, and it's all crazy. So this is why Keenan and I never got to play together. If he had just not mutinied, we would have gotten to play together. It would have been great. So he mutinies and goes to yellow. Josh mutinies and comes to blue. And so it ends up me, Storm, Casey, Sharif, Barbara, Josh on blue, I think. Right?
It's practically your remaining Unoga tribe sans Dash plus Casey and Storm.
Yes.
Were you surprised when Angela handed that advantage over to Keenan?
I don't know if I saw that happen. I'm not sure if I knew how Keenan got that advantage. That was all kind of a blur to me. It's just like, okay, these are my tribes. Everything.
This is all happening. I'm just going to get through it.
These are my tribes. Like, I don't know.
How was this challenge for you? This is the endurance challenge where you're holding the weight of sandbags above your head.
Oh yeah. It was fine. I think Barbara went out first in this challenge. Like I thought I was going out after Barbara, but then it turned out, I guess Josh was the one who we agreed was going to go out next. Those sandbags were kind of heavy. I feel like everyone was like, oh yeah, you're super strong. I'm like, I'm actually not that strong. Like I'll do it, but I felt like they were going to beat us in this challenge if it had kept going. So we got lucky.
Yeah, so Angela drops her hands and loses the challenge for the yellow tribe. On the way out, did you see the handoff between Ryan and Storm?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think I don't know if I saw the handoff or not, but like Storm told me immediately about it. Like we had to go back to Old Yellow and get our stuff. I think he played up the fact that like he had an idol or whatever. So yeah, he was trying to get everyone to think he had an idol, a real idol.
What did you believe that it was a real idol?
I didn't not believe it. Yeah, I think I believe that it was a real idol. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember seeing the scene, the two of you go back to the Kiwanu tribe to get your stuff, and that's where Storm tells you about the handoff and what he has and everything.
Yeah, I'm generally like, I'm not the most gullible person in the world, but like, I'm not just going to assume people are lying to me. So yeah, he had the note, he had something. We hadn't seen any idols yet. We didn't know what they looked like. So I was like, yeah, that could be an idol. Like, okay.
And so you get to go back to your favorite place, the Unoga campsite.
Yes, hell on earth. Yes.
And this is where, again, part 2 of my favorite story. You go to make fire.
Yeah, fire is getting increasingly hard to make because it is wet. I think this is probably the fire that took me the longest to make. But yeah, Keenan destroyed another flint, but it was fine. I was actually, this swap I did not feel good about this swap actually, despite the fact that I should have felt. Yeah, was surprising because I don't know. I felt like when I went back to Blue Camp, like all of a sudden Josh and Sharif and Barbara were like super close. Like I felt like I was on the outside of that for a lot. And then I knew KC was like gone from yellow. So I was like, what if KC, Sharif, Barbara, and Josh are now a 4? And I'm not in the 4 and Storm has an idol. I felt like I did not want to go to tribal in that configuration. And I was not feeling good about it, honestly.
So you're meeting KC for the first time. How was that?
It was fine. I mean, those guys were talking about KC, like, he and Ryan had this crazy rivalry. KC was great, but I feel like strategically at that point, like I did not want KC to get in with Barbara and Josh and Sharif because I felt like that meant that I could be the vote if Storm really had an idol, and I was really concerned about that.
So talk me through your side of the strategy. There's a lot of talk like, if you lose, Storm is likely the vote, but he likely has an idol. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, so I mean, it still seemed like people were willing to vote KC or to kind of try to split the votes in a way where it was like we were sure that one of the 4 of us wasn't going to go. But I just didn't feel super secure about it. we won that challenge, so we knew we weren't going to tribal. And this was kind of a bad night. This was the night I slept in between Sharif and Storm. I was like, who are the two biggest people in here? It is rainy, it's cold, I want to be warm. I was like in the middle between these guys. And this was the night when we all were so close together that we couldn't turn over unless all of us turned like very slowly in the blanket. So this was a rough night. I was not happy.
So over the span of day 5, did anything notable happen in regards to strategy or like rekindling the relationship with Josh, Sharif, and Barbara, or just talks with Storm?
I did talk to Storm a lot. Mm-hmm. He was playing up his idol paranoia. I think I talked to Sharif a bit, but I don't feel like I talked to Josh and Barbara as much as I really probably should have. Mm-hmm. I think that was not good on my part. But it was also very, like, their relationship, like, it was so clear that Josh and Barbara were very, very close. And, like, now that I was back at Blue and they had more time together, that was even clearer to me.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things Storm does is he really kind of poisons the well for Bash and comes by and say, "Hey, Bash is saying everything. And he's calling you all the Holy Trinity." Were you hearing any of that?
Yeah, I think I heard some of that, but I think honestly, a lot of that conversation happened between, I'm guessing, like Storm and Sharif and Storm and Josh. I mean, at this point, Bash and I were kind of done. So whatever Storm was saying about Bash, I was like, great. I hope everyone wants to vote Bash out by the time I see him again.
Well, you then go to your next challenge, right? And you see the Kuanu camp tribe return, and who is there but Bash? James was the next person voted out. What was your reaction to that?
Shocked. I was shocked. I mean, I thought Bash was a dead man walking, like, for the next 3 tribals or something like that. Mm-hmm. But I had also never met Keenan. I had never met James. Mm-hmm. And I never got to meet them in the game, which was sad. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know how Bash did that. He should have talked more about that at Final Tribal because that was impressive.
And so now you have a blindfold challenge. And so how was this challenge for you?
This was interesting. So I actually have a 90% hearing loss in one of my ears, and Storm also has some hearing loss. And so we both wanted to sit out of this challenge. I was like, I don't want to be blindfolded. Storm was like, I don't want to be blindfolded. Storm ended up sitting out. I ended up competing, and I was actually fine. Like, I just have to be very clear with people. And like, you can't say, come towards my voice. You need to give very specific directions. Like, I don't have any directional hearing. Everything sounds like it's coming from the same direction. Barbara was hilarious in this challenge. And I was actually the one who put the puzzle pieces in the slats, which we didn't think about it at the time. Like, I was just the closest to the puzzle. So I just took all the pieces and put them in. But that was actually probably a lot of what allowed us to win. The fact that the same person was doing that, because you could kind of tell how to build a puzzle once you started.
So your tribe wins pretty handily and sending the Kuanu tribe back to Tribal Council. Is there anything you want to talk about with the swap tribe before we kind of move to the merge?
No, I don't think so. I just continue to be impressed with Bash's ability to not get voted out.
Well, because you're going to get to the merge and you're going to see the Kuanu tribe return. And who's there but Bash, with Keenan voted out the last Tribal Council.
Yep. Shocking. Very shocking.
And from here, you get to go to probably the best, most official merge feast Reelfoot has ever put on. You get Applebee's.
Applebee's was amazing. I was so hungry by this point in the game. Like, I needed food badly. But I actually, everyone knows there are going to be clues at the merge feast. So everyone's looking for clues. But also, I think I was sitting between Lauren and Angela at the merge feast, which was exactly what I wanted. I was like, I need to immediately figure out where I stand with these people, because I thought we had a really strong relationship, but I never voted with them. So I need to really work hard on those relationships immediately at the merge. So that was my entire goal for the next many hours of the game, was to make sure that those relationships were solid.
one of my favorite moments of the merge shoots I still remember is like you say something to like the other tribe, thanks for running at James and Keenan. They were the last people I hadn't met. So you've actually met everyone in the merge. One of the few players who's been to both tribes and met every player at this point.
Yes, which was great, except for I didn't realize that James and Keenan were both on the jury at this
Yes,
point.
because so like talk me your reaction about hearing like these two players you never met are also going to be voting for the potential winner, maybe you.
I can't remember exactly when I found that out, but I don't know. I was still worried about too worried about not getting voted out to worry. I wasn't starting to worry about the jury yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't until later that I was like, that's very not good.
So looking at this merge tribe, describe it to me. What was the dynamics like?
It was really interesting because I feel like we never thought we would come in so even. Like it was even gender split. It was an even tribe split. It was really even in every way. And so that was shocking. And it made the merge vote obviously a really big deal and really interesting dynamic since Casey and Bash had switched and it was so even.
Because really you are the swing vote here.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't realize that until we started kind of scrambling around that first vote. But yeah, I did end up being in a swing vote position.
And is this a position you now like to be in, or just like, no, thank you?
No, it was great. Well, I wish I would have won that first challenge. I think if Casey had not won that first challenge, I think the merge would have been completely different.
Really, talk about that because the merge challenge, like I think you're up at the end with Casey giving a run for the money in the endurance balancing challenge, right?
Yeah, yes, I am. Yeah, and honestly, as more and more people are dropping, I'm like, this may not actually be a good idea for me to keep going here. But I just can't not try to win challenges. I just can't do it. I was like, screw it. But then I knew that everyone kind of wanted Casey out. So I was like, if I can beat this guy, then maybe we have an easy merge vote. And maybe it's not this total insanity that it ended up being because Casey ended up winning immunity.
And so kind of walk me through all the chaos, right? And your role in it, because you play an important kind of mediator between the two sides because you're being courted by everyone.
Yeah, this was a really interesting. I had a lot of interesting conversations. This is like the first point where I sort of realized that I had more control than I thought, because I didn't really realize how much control I had until I think the first two names that started getting said were Lauren.
Oh no. Oh man, right at the best part too, all about the merge votes. Because Parker is right. This merge vote was all about Megan. Given that, you have these original alliances, Casey swaps over to blue, Bash goes over to yellow, and the only player looking to really budge is going to be Megan here. All right. Welcome back.
Sorry about that. That was me, I'm sure. My internet sucks. I'm back now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the first two names I felt like were starting to get set at the merge vote were actually Lauren and Sharif, because they were the ones with the medallions at that moment.
Yep.
But like you said, both sides thought they needed my vote to make it happen. And I told the yellow immediately, I was like, I will not write down Sharif's name. And they're like, okay, well, we got to pick somebody else then. And that's when I really started pushing for Josh. And then I was talking to Blue and they were telling me this whole insane plan about like Casey giving his immunity to Sharif and then Josh giving a fake idol to Casey. And I was like, what the hell, guys? Like, this is never going to work. But then they wanted to vote Lauren. And I was like, I won't vote Lauren. So you have to pick someone else. And so they ended up voting for Bash. But then like at some point, Sharif was like, oh, I don't think Casey really trusts you. I don't feel like he thinks you're with us. Like, you got to do more work on that. So then I had to do more work on that. But then really where I felt I was lucky because they told me their whole crazy plan. And it was so crazy that I knew that if I told someone their plan and it actually happened, there was no way they weren't going to trust me. Like, no one makes that up. It was insane. So it was, at some point before the vote, I had decided, I was like, I need to vote with yellow, because if I don't vote with Angela and Lauren now, they're never going to trust me. Like, I'm going to have burned it. It's going to be over.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really, really scared of how close Josh and Sharif were.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, if I remove Josh, then I know I have Sharif. Like, I know that, because he's going to be disconnected he's going to be in a minority. He's going to need me at that point. And then I'm not going to have to be concerned about Josh.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up telling Angela exactly how the whole thing was going to go down. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
tell anyone else, but I told Angela exactly how the whole thing was going to go down. I was like, just no matter what happens, just make sure everyone just votes Josh. Like, don't let people get freaked out and try to vote Casey because they don't think his idol. Just vote Josh. And so, yeah, that was a pivotal moment for me. And the other thing that I did at that point was I told Sharif that I was going to vote Josh.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him the reason. I was like, I have to vote with Angela and Lauren, because otherwise I'm going to have burned my bridges with them. And I think we can work with them going forward. And so I had told Sharif, and he knew I was not going to vote with them.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking back, is there anything you wish you did differently at this merge vote?
Nope. The merge vote went down exactly like I wanted it to. I didn't want to do anything different. That was great. Sorry, Josh.
Well, there's some added bonus. You might have told Angela. I believe Angela told the rest of her tribe kind of what was going to go down. But you get to watch not one but two different idols get flushed also by your new alliance.
Yes. It almost made me like, I mean, like, yes, I'm glad both those idols got flushed, but it made me feel like I knew they didn't have to play those idols. I was like, why are you guys playing these idols? Like, you don't have to play these idols. Like, given what happened further on in the game, it was great that they all flushed their idols. So, yeah, flush all the idols. Get them all out of here.
Now, would there been anyone better to target from the original Onoga tribe?
Not for me personally in my game. I mean, like, no, I think sorry, Josh. I needed Josh to be gone.
Is there any, like, what % chance would there have been to potentially have forced a rock draw at this juncture? Or is that just something you're, like, ethically against?
I'm not ethically against a rock draw, but it would not have made sense for me to go to rocks at this point. No, there was that wouldn't have. I don't know if there's anyone I would have gone to rocks for at this. Well, probably Sharif. I probably would have gone to rocks for Sharif, but he's probably the only one at this point.
How concerned were you that that yellow was going to stay strong and that you were giving up numbers for blue, and like you could see it begonging? Like, was that a major concern you had?
No. No, I mean, that was a little bit of a concern that I had, like, for 4 votes from now. But, like, I was not concerned in the very near future, no.
And so Angela and Lauren did a good job making you feel comfortable with, like, there is a path forward with them.
Yes. Yeah, I felt very comfortable with them. I felt very comfortable with them at that point. And honestly, like, I did not feel comfortable with Casey, and I did not feel comfortable with Josh at this point. And so it just, overall, I felt more comfortable with yellow than I did with blue at this point, honestly.
So the vote goes down without a hitch. Bash gets 4 votes. Josh gets the other 6 votes. I mean, there are idols played. Lauren has a vote negated. Sharif gets the immunity necklace as planned. That's negated. But at the very end, Josh gives you a parting gift.
Yes, Josh gave me the medallion. That wasn't surprising. It was obvious he was giving that to me. But the medallion hadn't really played that much of a role in any of the prior votes, and I feel like I was in a good spot, so I wasn't worried about it.
So you have the paddle. You have the paddle immunity challenge with a balance ball on a surprisingly heavy wooden paddle. How was this challenge for you?
Not good. My wrists are not strong. I did not win this challenge. Storm and Lauren won it. I think my biggest takeaway from this challenge was I was very impressed with Storm.
For his endurance?
For his endurance, and honestly, for his focus. And also, like he talked himself up a lot before this challenge, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And like as I learned more about the game he actually played, I think he did a lot of things socially that were really smart. And I think him making people think he was good at certain challenges was one of those things.
It sounds like the two of your games just really didn't intersect, right?
No, they didn't.
Mm-hmm. And so talk me through the strategy here, because the vote will end up being for KC, but how does it land on that?
Yeah, I mean, everyone wanted Casey out last vote, so I think this was actually a pretty easy vote.
Mm-hmm.
And that was fine because I just wanted to not rock the boat at this point. I felt like I was in a majority. Casey was not pivotal to my game, but this was also the tribal where I found my idol.
So talk me through that. So you find I think we mentioned before the podcast, you find a clue after the Josh vote.
Immediately after the Josh vote.
Oh, well, we'll never know how the idol was found. Let's see how to fill the time. So I don't know what fun stuff to say here. For those of you who are tuning in, there are more live games happening in the near future. Oh, thank goodness, Megan's back. I don't have to talk.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi is so bad. I'm going to switch back to my house Wi-Fi and we'll see how it goes. Sorry.
I was like, I don't know how to fill the silence.
Yeah, sorry. I should have done this at work or something. I don't know. Yeah, so immediately after the Josh vote, I find an idol in our camp in the log by the fire that everyone's sitting on. Like, I just happened to step over it. I saw a tiny clue. I just sat down on top of it immediately and then picked up that idol clue there. And it basically said, like, there's something hidden at tribal council. It wasn't clear whether it was an idol or some kind of advantage or anything. I told Angela about the clue. Because I didn't know where the idol was at tribal. And I was like, I need eyes to help make sure I find whatever this thing is. So I told Angela about it. And then we purposely sat at opposite sides in this tribal council to make sure we had the best view of everything. The idol ended up being in plain sight in a hole in a tree that you could blatantly see as you were walking back from voting. I saw it when I was walking back from voting and I was like, oh my God, I can't get this right now because everyone is going to see me. Like, it's going to make noise when I step in the woods. Like, people are going to see me. But then I was like, everyone's going to see this thing while they're walking back. Like, it was in plain sight. It was like staring me right in the face. So it was like so stressful watching everyone go vote because I kept watching everyone walk back and I'm like, oh my God, is someone going to see it? Is someone going to take it? Is someone going to see it? Is someone going to take it? But then at the end of tribal, Angela and I signaled to each other that we'd both seen it. I was like, I'm going to get it. So she led everyone out of tribal. And then I went last and just grabbed it on the way
out. I have a couple questions still about the final 10 votes. One of them is from Josh. In the ploy, right? What if Josh had given you the immunity necklace, or what if Casey had given you the immunity necklace? Would that have changed your decision at all to flip?
I didn't need the immunity necklace. Who out of yellow would you have considered flipping on? I mean, Storm, Ryan,
Bash,
obviously. Yeah, I wouldn't. I think it honestly, sorry, Josh, but it was more like I felt like you were a real threat to my game, and I really wanted you out. So I really it was a conscious I wanted Josh out of the game at that point. I just felt like he was threatening my relationship with Sharif, and that was very concerning to me.
Well, I guess sorry, apparently I got it wrong. He means the penalty medallion. Let's say he gives medallion to Storm, or he gives the medallion to Ryan, right? And there's an extra vote against them. Would that have tempted you to try to vote for one of them?
Probably not at that next vote. No, I don't think so.
You mentioned before, if Casey had not won that first immunity challenge, and you had won it, right? He would have been the first vote, right?
I believe Casey would have been the first vote. Yeah.
And how would that have changed the merge, you think?
I'm not sure, but I feel like having Josh still in the game would have just changed the dynamic of everything significantly. Like, also, I feel like me voting with yellow against KC was a lot less strong of a show of loyalty than what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And also all the crazy idol play. There would have been idols in the game still. That it would have been completely different.
So getting back to, so you talked me, so you kind of walked through how you found the idol flaw in the KC vote, but was there any notable strategy or anything that you were involved in for the KC vote as well?
I don't think so. I think this next portion of the game is where I think the strategy really came.
Were you aware that Sharif had a safety without power advantage?
Yes. Yes, I was.
Okay. And were you surprised to see him actually use it at that tribal council?
Yes, I told him he didn't need to use it, but he didn't listen to me. And I know something happened with the idol passing between Storm and Casey, all that stuff. I did feel like, and Sharif was right to be paranoid because he was on the bottom, but I do feel like Sharif was acting very paranoid for the next 3 or 4 votes. And I was just like, calm down. I told you didn't need to use that, but he did.
One of the things that happens as a result of the KC vote, when you get your idol, KC's gone, and what else do you receive but a vote from Bash?
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Do you talk with them? Is that something you are like?
Oh, at this point, it's kind of a joke, right? Like, he's written my name down. I wrote his name down. He wrote my name down again. Like, it's fine. At this point, it's over between Megan and Bash. We're frenemies for life. Like, we keep having conversations like we're going to work together, and we're both staring at each other like we're not working together. Like, we're having conversations with each other like we're talking about what we're going to do. And I'm like, I don't believe anything you're saying. I'm sure that he didn't believe anything I was saying. It was hilarious.
So you're at the final 8. Can you re-rank this merge tribe for me, like by the importance to your game?
Yes. Angela is the most important to my game at this point. I told her pretty early that, like, I wanted her to be my number 1. I wanted to go to the end with her, and that was how I felt for the entire rest of the game. Sharif was my number 2, and then Lauren was my number 3, and then probably Barbara and Ryan, and then Storm, and then Bash. Is that everyone? I think so.
Yeah, that sounds right. And so you then have your first immunity challenge. First reward challenge, your only reward challenge of the merge. This is where you have to balance a stack of blocks while holding onto a rope to a platform in the middle. And your team, it's you, Angela, Bash, and Ryan. And you kind of crush it.
We crushed this challenge, yes. We crushed this challenge. The reward is great, but the best thing about the reward was that I feel like this is where Angela and I really solidified our relationship. I was actually trying to listen to this conversation on the live stream that we had in the restaurant, but you couldn't hear it because there was so much other noise everywhere and the camera wasn't close enough to us. But this is, I think, one of the most important conversations I had in the game. When we came back from this reward, I felt very secure with Angela.
Do you remember what was said that you feel like, why was this so important?
Because I felt like we were both talking very honest strategy and talking about moves we were going to try to make, like, very deep into the game. Like, who we wanted to take to the end, how far we wanted to take our closest allies. And I felt like it was a very genuine conversation, and I felt very connected to Angela after that.
And so was she promised you final 3 at that point, or?
I don't know if I would say she promised me final 3. We talked about it for sure. But I mean, you could never believe people promising you final 3 in Survivor. But yeah, I had every intention of taking her to the end of the game, no matter what, at this point. And that never changed for me the rest of the game.
I mean, looking at the final 8, like, did you have an ideal final 3, or your ideal final 3 was just you and whoever got there with you?
No, I think at this point, I don't. So I think the Ryan vote changed a lot of things for me, because I wasn't really sure how I was going to get Sharif and Barbara closer to the end with me at this
Mm-hmm.
point. And I was concerned that like that yellow would stay strong and I would be the vote out at 5 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember how many there were. But yeah, I think ideally I didn't really want to take Bash to the end at this point. I don't think it was later into that I was like, oh, maybe we'll take Bash. I still thought I could get rid of Bash at this point at some point. But I wanted to take Sharif very close to the end. I wanted to take Lauren and Angela. I wasn't really thinking, oh, I need to get rid of these people because they might beat me in Final Tribal quite yet.
Now that you have an idol in your pockets, right? You've told Angela. Were you planning on telling anyone else? And how did you want to use the idol?
Well, ideally, I just didn't want to play it wrong. I felt like if I played it wrong, that would be really bad. Like I wouldn't give votes at Final Tribal. Like you need to play your idols correctly. We had already had several incorrect idol plays, and I didn't want to play it wrong. The reason I didn't tell Sharif about it was because I felt like he was very paranoid at this point, and I didn't want him to like. I didn't want to have a bunch of conversations about whether or not I was going to play it for him or like try to figure out like I don't know all these different ways we probably could have used it. It wasn't that I didn't trust him. It's just that I felt like he was so paranoid that he was going to like try to get me to, like play it for him at the next tribal, even though I knew he didn't need it and it was going to be stressful. And I just didn't want to do it.
How willing would you have been to play your idol for Sharif or Barbara?
I don't think I would have played my idol for Barbara. Not because I don't love Barbara, but because I think strategically she wasn't as critical to my game. I think there could have been a scenario where I would have considered playing it for Sharif, definitely. But he didn't need it. He did like it was already gone by the time he got voted out. So
you mentioned that you had a very critical talk with Angela on this reward. Did you have any talks with Ryan or Bash?
I had lots of talks with Bash. None of them were critical because neither of us ever believed each other by that point. Yeah, I did talk to Ryan some. But I don't think at this point I had any intention of like trying to work closely with Ryan. And yeah, we all know what my relationship was with Bash. So
you get back from your reward and you immediately go into your next immunity challenge. This is the memory boxes challenge. So you look at the boxes, kind of try to memorize all of them, and then you have 10 questions about them.
Yep. I did okay in this challenge, actually. I think I came in second, which I was not expecting. But I just tried to remember a few. Like, I just was like, I'm not going to be able to remember everything. I just need to pick memorable things and remember them. And it turned out I remember some of the right things. But yeah, Bash ended up winning this challenge, even though we all perceived him to be drunk. And that shouldn't have been surprising to me because, like I said, he is good at memory. I should have known that.
So that night, this is the end of day 6. The vote kind of is going to be on Barbara, and it ends up being Barbara kind of says, "Hey, let's not strategize, let's not scramble, let's enjoy this last experience." Talk me about this night and any strategy you were thinking going into day 7.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't good for my game for Barbara to go here. Barbara was a number for me, so I did not want Barbara to go here, but I also didn't feel like there was a lot of ways that I could change this vote, and I was not playing my idol for Barbara. That would have been too big of a move.
Well, you have idol out Angela potentially.
I would never have idled. Yeah, that would have been bad. Yeah, I wasn't going to do that. So it was a great night. We got to spend some quality time together, and and that was amazing. Barbara was a phenomenal player. I was just so sad to see her leave the game because she truly was so comforting to me, and I loved having her there.
Well, anything else you want to talk about day 6?
I don't think so.
So day 7, you open up with the Barbara Tribal Council. She's voted out pretty unanimously. She and Sharif both cast votes for Angela, and Sebastian ends up inheriting the medallion. And this takes us to the final 7. And so I guess my question is, like, At what point did Lauren and Angela approach you about the plan? Was it before the challenge or after the challenge?
Before the challenge. Before
Okay.
the challenge, the plan was already set before the challenge. This was the bucket challenge.
Yes.
Yeah, and my parents were there. And so I dropped to see my parents, which was amazing. I'm so glad they were there. I don't get to see them that often, and it was just wonderful to see them there, to see them supporting me, and I was so happy to get to spend time with them. And Ryan had already dropped at this point, so I was not concerned. I was like, this is great. Ryan's done. I feel very confident in this plan. I'm going to go see my parents. I don't need to stand here with my arm above my head for an
hour. So talk me through about when Lauren and Angela come and pitch the plan to you.
Yeah, I mean, they pitched the plan and I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And also, I'm 100% sure Sharif is going to be excited about this plan. Personally, I think Sharif and I both wanted Storm out more than Ryan, but also neither of us had any power in this situation. So we were just like, okay, great. Like, I think we both said, yeah, we'd really rather have Storm, and they wanted Ryan, and we were like, okay, your choice. Ryan it is.
I think that answered Parker's question here. Why do you think the vote was Ryan over Storm?
Oh, because Lauren wanted it to be her move, and Ryan was her ally. Ryan had played an idol for her. She wanted to vote him out. Resume move. So, yeah, fine.
And so was there ever a temptation to play devil's advocate and go to Ryan and Storm and say, hey, guess what?
No, not for me, because I knew I wasn't Ryan and Storm. I know I wasn't in Ryan and Storm's endgame. Like, there was no reason for me to do that. No, I would never done that.
And so the challenge ends up going for 2 hours. Lauren ends up winning. Both she, Angela, and Bash set a record of 2 hours and changed this challenge. And so if the plan is already in place, is there any, what was the scramble like for you?
I think, I can't remember who we told people we were voting at this tribal. I have no idea. I think maybe Sharif. I think we may have told them we were going to vote Sharif, maybe. I think my biggest concern with this vote was that for some reason, people wanted to tell Bash that we were doing this. Like, Angela and Lauren wanted to tell Bash. I was like, do not tell Bash. Like, we have the votes we need. We're 100% sure these 4 votes are going. Why would you tell anyone else ever? So I think that was my biggest stress, was just like, please don't tell Bash. Like, I don't know what he's going to do, but I do not want to have to deal with that. And we didn't, and it was fine.
This move is great for your game, right? Because this is really opening things up. It means we're not just going to stay yellow strong the entire game. Yellow is starting to eat its own. And I guess at what point you're probably thinking, like, what's next? Like, even before the supposed to go, like, how does this change my end game or give me a chance to end game? What was going through your head about that?
Sharif and I had both discussed with Angela and Lauren that Storm was going to be next. We had agreed on that as a 4. So that's what we thought was happening. We thought Storm was going next.
So it would have been, you take out Ryan, you take out Storm, that gets you to the final 5, and then
Bash, and then it's very even. And I felt like, other than Bash, like, I had good relationships with everyone. Like, I had a better relationship with Angela than Sharif did. I had a better relationship with Lauren than Sharif did. Like, I had a better relationship with Sharif than anyone else there. Then my only concern was, like, are Angela and Lauren too close, and are they gonna, like, what's gonna happen at that vote? But
what was I gonna ask? Were you were fine going to end with Lauren and Angela?
Yeah, I was fine going to end with Lauren and Angela. I felt like in that 3, I was in the best position because they had played together the entire game.
Parker wants to just have a shout out to your parents for bringing donuts to everyone. Do they live in Tennessee or close by Tennessee? Like,
no. So my sister lives in New Orleans, and they were actually driving from Missouri to New Orleans, and it was actually only like 30 minutes out of their way to stop by there.
So they didn't stick around for the rest of the game, but still, it's really cool to have your parents there to see you play Survivor.
It was amazing, and I think they've gotten a little bit into Survivor since I've gotten into it. And yeah, it was, I'm so happy that they came, and it meant a lot to me to be able to see family at that point. Obviously, like I really felt like I understood why the family visit is so important in Survivor, because it really is just very stressful to not be around anyone who you truly trust and truly know.
So is there anything else you want to talk about the strategy, or do you want to go straight to the tribal council?
No, I think I'm good.
So tribal council happens, and things go according to plan. 4 votes go on Ryan. Ryan and Sharif. No, sorry, Ryan and Storm both vote for Sharif, and Bash writes your name down.
Yep.
for so number 3. So he's beating you currently. The number of times he's written your name down.
I think so. Yes.
But you gotta feel great watching Ryan walk out. So walk out of the game to the jury.
Yes, it was great. That was amazing. I loved it.
So, what was the follow-up to this travel like for you?
Bash was really mad, which didn't bother me because that wasn't a relationship that I had ruined. The biggest problem with this tribal was the next tribal.
Yeah. Because out the door, Ryan gives Lauren the medallion.
Correct. Yes, and then we all thought we were going to vote Storm, but then it became kind of clear when we were talking about the next vote that was not what Lauren and Angela actually wanted to do. And this is where I feel like I made potentially a mistake in the game. Potentially. I'm still not sure if I feel like it was really a mistake or not. Because Lauren and I connected on a very personal level in the game, but I did not trust her as much as Angela. And there's a very specific reason for that. She was very vocal about her involvement in orgs. And it was also very clear that she knew a lot of, she knew the tribe handlers. She knew a lot of people in the community. And so in the back of my mind, I was always a little bit unsure about what relationships she had that were from prior to the game. And that just caused me to never quite trust her. And maybe it was because in Survival Challenge, there were a lot of pre-existing relationships that I didn't know about that actually I felt like hurt my game a little bit. But I was very concerned about Lauren's pre-existing relationships and her very clear involvement in the org community and being very vocal about that, which I think Storm was not very vocal about that. I didn't realize that he was involved in the org community at any point really in the game. And I think that was a lot of, I could have changed this vote and I didn't. And sometimes I wonder if I should have.
Well, so you are sitting on the only hidden media in the game, right? At this point, do you think the Yoga idol is out there?
No, I don't think anyone knew that I had an idol or thought I had an idol except for Angela. I'm not sure if people thought there were any idols.
Yeah, so
I didn't hear you talk about it.
You have the only hidden media idol. And so you kind of have a lot of power to change this vote if you wanted to.
Yes, I didn't quite think about... I talked to Angela a lot about using this idol, not using the idol, what we could, I kind of talked through my entire strategy with her, but it wasn't until 2 minutes before tribal that I was like, oh my God, what if I play this idol for Lauren and we idol out Storm? Because I want Storm out. I want him out of the game. But Angela was like, I don't think we should do that. And the more I thought about how this would actually work, the more I think that would have been harder to do. Because I would have had to get Lauren to vote Storm, which she didn't want to do. It ended up being her because I thought it ended up being her at the time because she told me she wouldn't vote Storm. I was like, we got to vote Storm. And she was like, I don't want to vote Storm. And then all of a sudden her name was coming out and I was like, okay, I wanted to vote Storm, but whatever. But I would have had to get her to vote Storm. And I would have had to be really confident that my name wasn't going to be out there at all. Because if I play my idol on her, then they could vote me. So I need to tell as few people as possible. And I don't know who I would have told, who I would have trusted to vote Storm and been confident to play my idol on Lauren.
What about Sharif? Why not just get Sharif to vote Storm and therefore you have a 2-1 vote?
Yeah, I could have done that, except for I didn't tell Sharif I had that idol until right before Tribal. But yeah, both of us wanted Storm out, so we could have both voted Storm and then played the idol on Lauren. That's probably the best potential option that I had at that point.
Because so if Lauren stays in the game, right? Because Angela's okay with Lauren going because Angela's recognized like Lauren is a big threat, and I have to differentiate my game. And Angela's pretty confident in her relationship with Bash and Storm at this point, and you that she's like she feels very secure at the end.
Yeah.
And so, but if you take out Storm, you leave Lauren. Maybe there's still a world where Sharif goes 5 and you're targeted at 4, but maybe like Lauren is instead one of those slots of the 5 or 4.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of, first of all, I think Lauren could have given me a run for my money in that next immunity challenge, so I might not have had immunity going into that next tribal, which would have been different. Also, Lauren did tell me she wanted to take me to the end, and I didn't really believe her at the time, but like, I think she actually would have taken, she actually wasn't afraid to sit next to me to the end, at the end. And I just had decided that I was taking Angela to the end, and she was my number one. I trusted her completely. And I think I just, I trusted her a little too much.
I think it says Facebook user, I think this is Storm. At least when talking about but I think Sharif and Lauren's relationship had kind of broken down at this point too. And so he was like, he probably felt like he had no choice but to vote for Lauren because she was voting for him.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure whether Sharif would have. Yeah, I think Storm's saying he's not sure if Sharif would have voted him. Yeah, I'm not sure either. But I also didn't, I wanted Storm out at this point, but I never realized until the end how much I needed to get Storm out, and which is a credit to Storm's game for sure. Like, I didn't want him in the game because I just didn't feel like he was a number for me, and I didn't think he would take me to the end. But I didn't realize that he was going to be the one who prevented me from getting to the end.
So anything else about the strategy for the Lauren vote you want to talk about?
No, I mean, yeah, I've thought a lot about this decision, but I don't know if it would have changed anything, honestly.
So Lauren goes home in a 6-1 vote. She's the second player the Medallion has taken out of the game. It's her and Keenan. You play your idol for yourself. You don't negate any votes, but honestly, like, it's not a bad plan to play anyways, just in case. Were you tempted at all to try to take it to the end and say, hey, look what I have?
I knew I wasn't taking it to the end. It was a matter of me deciding what I wanted to say when I played it. Because what I wanted to do when I played it was I wanted to make it clear that I knew where the votes were going and I didn't need to play it. But I don't need a souvenir. Like, why would I hold it till the end? Like, I would rather just give it to Amos and say, I know where the votes are going. This is what I wanted to happen, and I don't need to play this to make it happen. I'm just giving it to you. So that's what I did.
So that leads us to our final immunity challenge. Actually, we even talked about the final 6 immunity challenge, the fire making challenge, where Bash won. Okay, we can move on.
Yeah.
Let's go. So this leads to the final immunity challenge of the day. This is the balancing the lake challenge. It's really kind of a heads up between you and Dash.
Yes, again. I mean, everyone's saying that this was my challenge to lose, and I did have an advantage just because of my physical stature in this challenge. But I also did mess with Bash, right? Like, he was floating around, and I was like trying to mess with him, right? Because he was doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and like, I was like, this man's not going to be able to keep his hand behind his back for that long. He's gonna do something crazy. So yeah, I mean, I was messing with him. I was trying to get him to do something stupid. He did, and that's how I ended up winning. Because I do think he could have given me a run for my money if we had to stand on one foot. Like, he has very random skills. He got from his knees to his feet by jumping. So
wow,
I was a little
that's
scared.
Really impressive on a platform like that.
Yeah, it was insane. I thought I had him at that moment. I was like, you're done. Like, you made a strategic error and you're done. But he somehow stood up, and I don't know. Yeah.
How does it feel to win immunity?
Great. It was great. I feel like everyone thought I was very strong in challenges through the entire game, and this was the only immunity that I won, and everyone's saying that it was made for me. So like, I I guess I was close in all of the challenges, which is why people perceived me as a strong challenge threat. But this was the only immunity that I won.
It's probably because you're showing in the first challenge too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was in every challenge, like near the top, but I didn't win any other than this one. So,
so you're kind of ending day 7. You have immunity. You're going the final 5 vote. What's going on strategically for you at this point?
I still wanted Storm out. I thought Angela and Sharif and I were going to vote Storm out, and they voted Sharif out. Sorry, Sharif. That's not what I wanted. And then Sharif thought I voted for him.
Because this is something pretty scattered. Like Sharif votes for Angela, you're voting for Storm. You see 3 votes for Sharif.
Yeah, Sharif voted for Angela.
That's what I have written down.
Okay. I thought the only votes Angela received were those 2 from the Barbara vote, but maybe he did. Anyway, I did not vote for Sharif, and I think I was almost back at the point where I was like, I'm going to take Sharif to the end with me. Like I wasn't at this point. I felt like after my idol play, I felt good with the jury. I wasn't scared to take anyone to the end. So I would I know I said in a couple of confessionals that I didn't want to take Sharif to the end, and there was a point where I thought I couldn't take Sharif to the end, but I actually thought that as the game wore on, I wasn't afraid to sit with Sharif at the end, and I didn't write his name down. I was like, I can't believe he thought I wrote his name down in this vote.
Yeah. So what was your reaction to kind of being blindsided? Like, was there a reason why they didn't tell you that Sharif was going home?
Yeah, I felt totally screwed, and I was totally screwed after this vote. This was bad. That was very bad. Once they voted Sharif out, I was like, oh man, it's over. If I don't win this immunity, I'm done. I'm done. That's when I was like, I really needed Storm to be gone before this vote. Strategic error on my part.
So was there any scrambling that you were doing, or is there any hope in you surviving this outside of winning the challenge?
Yeah, I still thought there was a chance that Angela wanted to go to the end with me and Bash. I still thought that was possible, but it was getting less and less possible in my mind. But that was my only chance. Storm was not taking me to the end, and Bash was not taking me to the end. So that was it. Was it. I was either going with Angela or I wasn't going.
So talk me through your last immunity challenge.
I loved this challenge. I liked it because it was long and everyone was in it. We all had an opportunity to win. We all had our fate in our own hands. I think everyone told me I was one block turn away from getting this puzzle, which telling me that right after the challenge did not make me feel good. But I guess now I feel good. I don't know. That was bad. Okay. I used to win the challenge. I didn't win it. So yeah, it's not good.
Storm is noting, Facebook user Storm, that he wanted you out since Final 14. The fact you got the Final 4 together was impressive, considering your 2 games went in opposite directions. You always want each other out.
Yes, he lied to me a lot. We never worked together. It wasn't good, but that's fine. Yeah, I think I knew that vote was going to be me after this challenge. And I think I kind of got to the point where I was like, you know what, I've said my piece. I respect the decision that Angela made to vote me out here. I was not ever going to write her name down. So if it had been reversed, that's not what I would have done. But that was I think that was probably the right decision for her game, and I respect it. And I think I just said my piece, and then I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna continue to badger you, even though probably I should have. I should have just tried to make her feel as guilty as possible.
Is there a world where you think you can guilt trip her into letting you go to fire against Storm?
That's what I should have tried harder to do. I did say it. I was like, look, I want a woman to win this game. If we both get there, one of us is going to win. I'm confident in that. Like if we go to the end, Megan, Angela, Bash, one of us is going to win this game. And like I felt like that's what I wanted. But I couldn't. Like I did ask her, I was like, please let me make fire. I did be like, Storm, wouldn't it be awesome if we made fire? Like what, like I was, yeah. But I'm not the type of person who's going to try to guilt trip someone like that. And honestly, that is something that I do regret a little bit, because I don't know if there was any chance I would have gotten there, but I couldn't do it.
I mean, maybe there's a world where you aren't making the fires at the camp, so people don't know that you are really skilled at making fire, and then you can like persuade.
I'm not that skilled at making fire quickly. I can make fire in a camp setting, but like it's not like I can start a fire in 10 seconds reliably.
True, but people hadn't known you could make fire. Yeah. Right, and then maybe you like are able to guilt trip Angela enough, she lets you go to fire, then you're like, aha, I can make fire.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. You would have to ask Angela if there was any way I could have guilt tripped her into taking me, but I wouldn't have felt great about doing that to her at that point in the game.
And so you end up going home in a 3-1 vote right before final tribal council. You were the last person to enter the jury house.
Yes, that was very depressing, because I had already started thinking about what I could potentially say in a final tribal. And yeah, I was very upset at that point, also exhausted. But like I said, I had my fate in my own hands. I needed to win that challenge, and I didn't win it. So that is life in Survivor.
Do you have a sense from the other jury members what your chances would have been against Storm or Angela at the end?
I don't think I asked people at the time, but I felt like the jury was fairly impressed with my game. And I also felt like I could have pitched my game very well, because I am actually very different outside of the game than I feel like I was inside of the game. And I think I could have pitched my case very well, because I did play the middle. I did have relationships on both sides. My path to the end wasn't like Angela had a very clean game. Like she had very few votes against her. She was in the majority almost the entire game. I think in the entire game she was in the majority, which is very impressive, and I could never have done that. But I do think I had to forge my own path a little bit more at some points in the game.
Now, were you pretty set on who you were voting for going into final tribal council?
Not totally. I really didn't know.
Facebook user Storm says that he thinks you beat everyone. you would have had her.
Thanks, Storm. I didn't know a lot about Storm's game at this point, so I was still open, and I was mad that Angela didn't take me. So as much as I like wanted a woman to win the game, I was also just kind of pissed, because I was like, I would have taken her. So, but yeah.
Do you remember your jury question, what you asked?
Yeah, I asked, what relationship did you think was most important for your game? Something like that. And Bash said me. And I loved it. I do like, I don't know if that was true for anyone. His answer, like, I don't know if people thought that answer was realistic. I think he said me because of the rivalry made people want to keep him in the game, because he felt like he was one of the few people who could rival me in challenges. I'm not sure if that was true or not, but fun answer. I loved it.
Did anything was there anything that was said or brought up that like maybe potentially could have changed your vote or had a sway in your vote?
Yeah, I mean, I do think I have been more and more impressed with Storm's game, even hearing about it more post game. Like when he said that he came up with the Holy Trinity name, and I started realizing how many things he had said during the game that had affected the way people played the rest of the game, which was very impressive, and also like not something that I personally would ever be able to execute. Like that is not a game style that's available to me, and I was super impressed that Storm was able to do that.
Anything else you want to talk about from your game?
I don't think so. I didn't Sharif and I talked about me not voting for him when I got to the jury house, and that's when I realized that he had thought that I voted for him, and I was like, oh my god, I would never have voted for you. That was crazy. I don't think so. No, I don't think there's anything else.
How was meeting Keenan and James in the jury house?
It was good. I mean, honestly, the jury house was so overwhelming at that point because there were so many people in there, and also I was like exhausted, and like I was very emotional when I got voted out of the game. It's just really hard to be that close. It was really hard to be that close. So I think and then I think by the time I had showered and changed clothes, I think it was only like 15 minutes till final tribal. Like I didn't have a lot of time to talk to people in there.
Hypothetically, let's say you, Angela Bash, make it to the final 3, and there's the challenge for the extra vote to give to a jury member, and let's say you win it. Do you know what jury member you would have given the extra vote to?
Probably Sharif, although maybe. Oh yeah, because Storm was also on the jury.
Yeah,
that would have been fine. Yeah, I would have given it to Sharif probably, or Barbara, but probably Sharif.
So comparing your survival challenge experience to the Reelfoot experience, like, what has that been like to you?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to say from a production perspective and to all of the people who put both of these games together, they're both amazing games. Really well run, and kudos to all of you guys, and thank you so much for letting me be a part of both of them. I think Reelfoot just suited my personality a lot better. I do not like the short form game. Like
you don't like having only 5 minutes that
I can't do. Yeah,
cram in your strategy.
Like, I'm not an aggressive person. I'm not gonna like. I need time, and I really appreciated having that time because I felt like every vote we had discussed all the options and we chose the option that was best for us. Sometimes in short form games, you just don't have time to discuss all the options.
Yeah.
And there are all these options left on the table that you've never talked about. I felt like in this game, every option was talked about. The votes were the way the votes were going to be. If we had waited another hour, it would not have made a difference in almost every case.
Looking back on your Reelfoot game as a whole, are there any major points you're like, wow, I wish I had done something different then? Any major pivot points that could have helped you maybe get past that final 4?
Yeah, maybe. One is I think I'm still not quite as observant as I want to be. Like I still miss things that other people see, which is just hard because I get very caught up in the moment. I just want to compete in challenges. I get excited about challenges. I'm not looking for idle clues. Like it's not good. Like I need to be more observant. And I need to always be thinking that there are clues and advantages and things happening in the game that matter at that level. That's one thing. I think the other thing is just because I feel like in my professional life and in my personal life, people underestimate me a lot for a lot of reasons. I do not like to be underestimated. And so I want to project physical strength always. And sometimes that's not a good idea, but I can't stop myself from doing it. Like I just don't ever want people to perceive me as weak. And I think that's just a reflection of my life in the real world. It's something that it's very hard to overcome, but you do have to think about the way people perceive you and in these games differently. And sometimes you don't always want to be perceived as strong. Like I didn't really, if I didn't think I could beat Casey in that first challenge, I should not have been at the end because I didn't think I was the vote. I knew I wasn't the vote. So I think things like that, like, I don't know if I could change my game in that way because I just think that's so counter to who I am as a person that I don't think I could do it, but I should consider it.
Well, I mean, looking at your game, I mean, you did a lot. You were the middle part of the season, right? You defined the merge vote. You were able to help aid, and like your relationship was critical in making the final 7 ride and blindside happen, right? You survived the dicey swap situations. There's a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, I'm super proud of my game. I couldn't have asked for a better group of people to play with. I couldn't. I don't think there's anything I would have done differently, honestly, except for, I really wish I had won that last challenge. So maybe like flip that middle block, win more of this way.
Win the game.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up, I'd like to just kind of throw out some rapid fire questions at you just to get your quick takes on things.
Yeah, go for it.
What was your lowest moment in the game?
Lowest moment in the game. Probably when it was raining at Blue Camp after I got swapped back there. It's pretty low.
What was your highest moment?
I think I had two moments that were very special to me. I don't know if they were my highest game moments. Like I love winning immunity, but two of my favorite camp moments, I guess. One was when it was raining at Yellow Camp and Frank gave us shout outs from the live feed, and my brother shouted me out, and so did one of my employees actually. And it was just like, that made me smile. And Angela got an amazing shout out in that moment as well. And that was just a great moment for us. And the other was having Barbara describe our camps in her real estate agent way. I don't know. That was just so comforting. I loved it when she did that. It it just made me feel at home. Like, it was great.
What was your favorite challenge?
Probably the one that I lost to Bash, the fire one.
Mm-hmm. The one we even talk about.
Yeah, but I like the challenges where you have to do a bunch of. I also really liked the final immunity. I think right after the game I said that was my favorite challenge. But I liked both of those. I like the obstacle course ones where you have to do a lot of different things. They're physical. There are puzzles. That's what Survivor's all about to me. I love challenges.
Favorite tribe, was it Anoga 1.0, Kawanu 2.0, Anoga 3.0, or Pete's Angels?
Oh, Pete's Angels.
I have done us a service. I've not asked a single person how that name came to be. How is Pete's Angels name chosen for the tribe name?
Good question. I can't exactly. I think we were talking about how one tribe named their tribe after Amos's kids.
Yeah.
Years. I think there had been tribes named after other people, and I don't know. Pete was. I think Pete spent a lot of time with all of us, and like I personally loved getting to know Pete, and I also love I got to drive with him to both of the rewards, and I felt like he was just so invested in the game and also like in Reelfoot, in the area. Like there was clearly a lot of love there.
Josh saying he suggested when you all couldn't come up with anything else you could agree on.
Yeah. But yeah, I do think like Pete has a lot of love for this game, and you can see it in the game and like in the way he interacts with all of us. So,
who surprised you the most out there?
Maybe Barbara.
Mm-hmm. And who do you wish you had a chance to work with but didn't?
Probably Storm.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I just wish I got to know more about his game, because I really feel like I didn't understand his game until we were already out of the game.
Mm-hmm. Is your favorite color blue, yellow, or green?
Green.
Fitting with your favorite tribe. Would you would you do this all again? Would you play another live game?
Absolutely. Yes. Of course.
Would you play a Blood versus Water game with your parents, or one of your parents as your team?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Would they do it?
Huh?
Would they play with you?
I don't know. I've actually talked to my dad a little bit about it. I don't know if he would play or not, but I think it would be great. I'm sure my brother would play with me. I'm sure I could get someone in my family to play Blood versus Water, and it would be great.
Final question from Parker. What was the move you're most proud of?
Oh, definitely the merge vote. I mean, like I vote both realized I could control votes, and then I was able to execute a vote that I actually felt like was very critical to my game.
Megan, I think that's all the questions I have from my end. Is there anything else you want to bring up?
I don't think so. I just want to say again how absolutely wonderful this cast was. I loved getting to know everyone, and thank you again to Pete, Parker, and Amos for having me. It was a great experience.
Well, and thank you everyone for tuning in and listening. This is the last scheduled Reelfoot deep dive interview. So Megan, thank you for the bookend of these interviews. If you want to catch up on the other interviews, they're on YouTube or Facebook Live, so you can see them there. And yeah, that's all for me. Thank you again, Megan. Thank you, Pete, Parker, Amos, for making a wonderful season happening. Thank you for so many of your castmates for taking the time to talk with me and letting your season kind of be recorded for history here. And yeah.
Thank you for so much for having me, and thank you for all the time you've spent talking to all of us about our games. It really does make a nice bookend to the experience.
And thank you all for helping me procrastinate my dissertation. It was a team effort. It's only due in 3 weeks now. So
good luck.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Once again, Megan, thank you so much, and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.